Five, four. Hello, everyone. James Floyd Kelly here. Welcome to episode 18 of Novel Ideas. I can't believe, Eric Wex, that we have 18 of these bad boys under our belt.
Isn't that a full season if we were doing a television show? Can't we call that a full year? We could stop now, right?
This is right about the time Sci-Fi would cancel us.
Yeah. The Fox executive is walking in my door right now.
There we go. Listen, guys, we know you got 20 more episodes planned, but can you wrap it up in one episode? Can you get everything covered in 15 minutes and just listen?
Right. So apparently this will be our goodbye episode, and we didn't know it. So we'll have a whole bunch of threads hanging that never get resolved.
Oh man, Sci-Fi is gonna come after us for this, you know.
Have you noticed that the next big 3 space opera shows that they're doing all are miniseries style? So they're guaranteed to give conclusions to their audience. I think it's very interesting that after Battlestar Galactica and then folding on space opera, they've gone back to it, but they're only doing formats where they have closed endings. It's really funny.
But you know, there was a recent interview with a Sci-Fi executive who he admitted something like, "Hey,
oh yeah,
we messed up."
Yeah,
and apparently they're going to try to get back to science fiction. Now, do I believe that? We'll wait and see.
I'll believe it when they drop the Y.
Yeah, you know what? They are doing a Westworld miniseries.
Yes.
And my favorite, they're doing this series. It's called The Expanse, and it's going to be I don't believe it's going to be a long-term series. It's going to be a mini-series, but it's called The Expanse, and it's based on the S.A. Corey or James S.A. Corey novels. And let me tell you, I've read all the novels, and also I follow the tweets of the authors, and they've been there when they're doing filming. And who did the Punisher? What was his name?
I don't know.
The actor. I just went blank. James. No. What was Jane? Something. I just went blank on his name. He plays one of the leads. It's the guy who played Punisher. His last name is Jane.
Yeah, right.
But I'm actually excited.
I know. Sci-Fi's got me kind of excited for a few things.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Oh, wait a minute. We're supposed to be talking about novels.
Oh yeah, we totally sidetracked that, didn't we?
This is not the Geek Dad blogcast. Hey, listen. Before we get started, congratulations on your Kickstarter, right?
Thank you.
And I noticed that you got out to all your backers. You got out the digital versions that you owe them.
Yep.
And wasn't there something else going on? One of your messages, or that you're looking. You want to make any kind of announcements? Am I rushing things? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Announcements at what? I don't remember what I said.
Oh,
you can announce it for me. It's fine.
Oh well, we had talked last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, about your latest novella.
Becoming a Novel.
Gravelander, right?
Yeah, I really think so. Like, especially after writing last week's episode, I feel like I had to rush some of the things that I said, and what I found is, in the serial form, a character moment is very hard to earn, because you've got people picking it up and dropping it at the beginning and end of that story. And so even your character moments have to have plot and story arc in them. And so I felt like last week's episode was probably my weakest, because in the long form of the novel, that will be an earned moment. But in the short form of the serial, it was really, really hard for me to pull that off. And I still feel like I did a very good job. So
let me make you feel a little better. What you're writing is a 10-part story with a start and an end. You've got a limited amount of time, so what you're doing so far is perfect. But you are correct in that there's plenty there that could be fleshed out into a larger novel. So I'm looking forward to that.
And I was super excited because one of my big thank you, Eves, who listens, wrote me on Facebook this morning, and he's an Aboriginal man living in Ontario, and he was like, yeah, that's my culture. And he said it was the first time in book form that he felt like somebody captured a culture that was more like his that he'd ever seen. So it makes me even more excited to talk about going back and actually expanding this into a 50,000-word novel and making it a true novel.
Well, I got that tweet, and I actually went and read the guy's letter.
Yeah.
And it was good. Cool. I mean, you got to feel good as a writer when someone.
I did. I was smiling. I was really smiling. I was like, okay, Because one of the problems with writing is you know it is a mom's basement profession, as I call it, right? You know, you writing by yourself for yourself, and you have this mediation of the text between you and the readers, and I just crave that feedback. So to get feedback like that it worked for him, that he understood what I was trying to say, even if I felt like I said it poorly, was really, really great. So that's always helpful.
You know what? Let's get on our real topic, but I do have one final question. He talked about the fact that there was a real tribe, the Cree.
Yeah.
Was that luck, or did you?
I knew that the Cree were around, and I was evoking some of those Algonquin names by naming them Tim Cree. Like
Okay.
I did want Native American kind of tribalism as kind of an underlying thing. Like what I said to him back is mostly I was thinking of the Roma. I was thinking of what have been called the Gypsies, right? I was thinking of the Roma when I wrote those guys. But I definitely want this idea of the outsider group that is living in the midst of an insider culture, and what does that do to their group identity? And what can the insider culture, Joe, right, the person from the insider culture, actually take from it without, I mean, so we're totally on a different topic, and maybe we should run with this one today, and we'll come back to titles next time.
We should. We'll do that. Let's go with this one.
The next problem I have then is what's called in writing is the magical Negro problem, right? In that you set up this outsider culture as the answer to all Joe's problems, right? And so you set up this, you set up the other, right? So this is all about what do I imagine about people who aren't like me, right. And when you're imagining people who aren't like you, there's a lot of mistakes you can make. And they're really easy to fall into. Because
they can be powerful. I mean, they can solve all the problems. Right.
They can solve, and that's called the magical Negro problem, right? From some of the literature that came out about African Americans in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, where you kind of flip things on its head and you make. Actually, I shouldn't say 50s and 60s. I don't know when that term was coined, but the idea is the white person who goes to the African American and learns everything they need to know to be a successful person. Wow. And that can be equally problematic, because then you're still dealing with a stereotype of African Americans, even if it's a positive stereotype. And so I'm really pulling with that tension when I'm dealing with the Tim Cree right now, is how do I keep them in a place where they are capable of teaching my character something that she as an individual needs to learn about trust. Like a big theme for me in this book is that I think that we as majority culture, white culture Americans have this idea that we are supposed to develop into people who are completely self-sufficient. This is a very American thought, right? Even European Americans don't think this way. But there is an ideal in our culture that we would literally need no other person for our own support in any way, shape, or form, which just doesn't work with human evolution. It doesn't work with human history. It's a really odd thought and kind of dangerous.
Well, it works in short term, and by short term I mean a couple hundred years, because colonial America, we were self-sufficient for 100 to 200 years before exporting and importing became another powerful thing.
Even our migrant culture adds to it, right? Because if I'm living in the Irish village, I go back to this all the time. This is why I think we have higher rates of ADHD in our culture than a lot of other cultures. If you go back to the Irish potato famine, the person who is embedded in the community and really feels associated with that community stays, right? Because they have a social network that, even though they're starving, helps support them. The person who feels like the outsider, who feels like an individual on their own without support, leaves and comes to the United States to make their fortune in a better place. And so I think because of that, we have this culture that has developed these ideals of individualism to the point that I think we're undermining a lot of stuff. So that's one of the themes that I'm thinking a lot about when I put Joe in this culture that's very different than hers, that cannot think that way because of its status as a separate culture inside a majority culture. It has to depend on each other. It has to be very insular, and that's going to be, I want. So like I said, I'm really wrestling on how do I show that without making that culture perfect.
Well,
and
listen.
how do I show it without having Joe just completely embrace it or be accepted by it? That's the trick too.
Well,
so we're working hard on that.
The Tim Cree are not perfect. Here you go. Okay, they're violent.
Yep.
Amongst themselves.
Yep.
They are superstitious. Their technology is limited. They're basically using the throw-offs, right?
Yes.
So you know, I'm just saying, as a reader, I'm not reading the Tim Cree as this ultimate, super-powered group that's going to come and figure out how to get the king his throne back. I'm not seeing that far ahead.
I also don't want them to be emotionally superpowered. So this comes back to A Story. Like A Story, it's really easy to see them as not superpowered because they're the outsider who takes the casts off. But it's the B Story stuff that we talked about last week where I feel like I need to be very careful not to also make it so that their culture has all the answers.
You know what movie suffered from that? A lot of people liked Avatar, but I did not.
Right.
Because in the movie Avatar, at the end of the movie, I can never say the word.
It's the USB cord the USB cord that saves everything, right? We can plug in.
Right, but the Abby, what was their name in Avatar?
The Na'vi.
The Na'vi. I was saying Abby. It was the Na'vi. They were perfect. Yeah. They had the perfect culture, the perfect society. Right. Everything could be solved through talking to their trees and stuff like that. And it was very pretty, and the visuals were fine and all. But that was a typical movie of where they made the other culture, the B culture, so perfect that it didn't come off as believable to me because every culture has its problems.
Did you see the link I posted to Ursula Le Guin's acceptance speech for the National Book Awards? Did you see that her little acceptance speech?
No, I did not.
Find the video, okay. and when I ever finally get around to producing these and actually putting the titles and stuff on them, I'll put a link here. So if it's 6 months from now and I've actually done that, there will be a link on the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
But Ursula Le Guin's book acceptance speech, she talked a lot. I mean, you could tell finally she's 80-something, she's getting a National Book Award.
Right.
And there was a bit of Schadenfreude that a grand dame at 80 could get away with that the rest of us couldn't, and it was quite lovely. But she kind of comes in and says, yeah, this used to be the room that was only dominated by the realists. Apparently you decided you needed some of us to imagine a better future because it's kind of getting dark out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that was the gist of what she said, which is that the speculative fiction people have a place at the table of literature because we can imagine futures that are hopeful. So so this is ringing in my head too, as I'm trying to both be like, I want to present the Tim Cree as realistic and flawed to avoid this problem of the other being the perfect solution, and I also want to present some kind of like inspiration for Joe to move someplace, which is also a challenge for us readers to actually see ourselves as part of a cohesive unit rather than just as individuals. And I just feel like the serial is kicking my butt when I'm trying to actually get that all onto the little pieces of the page. So
well, I'm going to take some heat here. I may not be the only person, but I think I should take credit. I talked you into doing this serial, okay? So I'm feeling a little guilty that you're feeling this pressure to create this big story into this little 10-part thing. You shouldn't do that. The Tim Cree are awesome. I love them. I've never encountered, I've read a lot of fiction, science fiction, and they're unique. They're new. And their imperfections are already showing. You don't have to feel like you've already created some super-powered race that's going to, it's not going there.
I'm listening. Good.
Yeah. So now I'm feeling guilty. I'm like, man, I talked Eric into this, doing this series.
No, actually, I have liked it. I mean, yeah, like last week, the pressure was on. I mean, you saw how late I got the draft to you. That was done like 10 minutes before it went to you.
Yeah, viewers, 11 p.m. I get an email from Eric. Here it is.
That's East Coast versus West Coast, dude.
That is. I'm on East Coast, and so I'm going, oh, good. Thankfully, a lot of our editors are on the West Coast, and they are able to handle that. So, Oh, well, you know what? No pressure. You've only got to get part 6 to me by tomorrow night. Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and Thanksgiving. So actually, the plan is it'll be done and in your hands by this evening, and you can do whatever you want with it tomorrow at your convenience. So, but I'm looking forward. This episode is so much less pressured because it's.
We're on the downhill. We're on the downhill now.
We are. We're on the downhill, and it's action packed. So
we're in Act 3. I get. Well, maybe not Act 3 yet. I don't know. I haven't read it, so it could be Act 3. It's hard to say.
We'll see. Late.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm glad you got that email from your reader that gave you a little boost about the Timcree. Mm-hmm. Call me biased. I did talk you into this, so but I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. I love serial. I love serial stories that have that have those clipped endings. I love them to death. And so let's go ahead and end this here. Viewers, you heard it from Eric. We should have part 6 out by Friday, and I'll post it as soon as I can get it from Eric and create the post. But just for any viewers who might be tuning in and wondering what are they talking about this whole 20 minutes that we've been going, Eric is writing a 10-part story called Gravlander. It is set in his Pax Imperium universe, and we are hosting it on geekdad.com. Every week, for the past 5 weeks, 6 weeks actually, because part 6 will come out this week. For the past 6 weeks, Eric's been posting 1 part per week. So please go check it out. You've got plenty of time to catch up. They're not exceedingly long, so you should be able to read all the existing 5 parts very quickly, and then part 6 will be out this week. So, well, listen, Eric, my friend, happy Thanksgiving to you in advance.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
And viewers, we did have an honest-to-goodness, really good topic to discuss.
Which will come up next week.
We'll put it off to next week. It was a really good one. Let's not tell them what it is.
Well, I put it in the title, so it's even worse.
So we're gonna talk covers and cover. Yeah. Will Eric and James talk about covers and titles? Will they ever reach that? It reminds me of that old Dragon comic, the Dragon magazine. There was a comic series in the back called What's New. Yeah. And every episode they were going to talk about sex in D&D. Right. And they never. It was always put off. They never got off. They never got around to it. That's awesome. That's going to be ours. Writing sex scenes, and we'll just keep putting it off forever. And,
Let's do that. Let's keep putting that one on.
Yeah,
I have some funny stories about that. I got one of my favorite reviews is they took everything I did in the sex scene that I wrote, and they were like, I hate that. You should never do a sex scene again. It was pretty funny. I'm like, no. I did all that stuff that you think I did kind of not on purpose. I wrote it exactly that way for a reason. It was pretty funny. There's definitely a disagreement in style.
Yeah. Well, listen, viewers, thank you for paying attention to our ramblings for 20 minutes. If you have any questions or requests for topics, please send them to Eric at ericwex.com. And thank you for joining us. Eric, we'll talk again next week, and hopefully we will hit our topic next week.
Yeah, we'll see. Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
All right. To you and your family, happy Thanksgiving, brother.
Happy Thanksgiving. Take care.
All right. Bye.